I do see that people are really into intermittent fasting. What do you think of that?
What we're finding now in terms of research is that fasting for women is not necessarily having the same effects as fasting for men. It has a place in terms of kind of medical conditions, and if you do it kind of through seeking advice, that's great. But in terms of women, thinking about our, on average 28-day cycle versus a man's 24-hour cycle, I think the effects are wholly different. So I personally don't intermittently fast anymore. I will eat, in the morning, before I work out, after I work out. Our recovery windows are different in terms of men and women. The ways in which we metabolize kind of energy is different after working out. So I personally don't.
Welcome to Glow Lab. We're gonna have a lot of fun and learn a lot together. If you follow me on social media, you've probably noticed I'm in my wellness era. I am really trying to take better care of myself, and I've gotten into strength training and taking my supplements regularly. And I've really just loved all the wellness trends that I've been trying, but there are so many wellness trends out there, and it's kind of hard to figure out which ones are real, which ones are fake, and also just know how to get started. So that's why I'm excited about today's guest. Her name is Dr. Monika Sharma. She is a GP in the UK, but she's not only just a doctor, she is also on social media, really breaking down some of these wellness trends and giving us a lot of evidence-based information so that we know what to do with all of these trends and all of these topics. So we have a really fun conversation. We break down some of her routines and then also just talk about some of the trends. Mon, I am so excited to talk about wellness with you. And I have to tell you, the reason why I'm excited about this is because I feel like you're not so definitive about everything. When you follow people on social media and they're like wellness gurus and everything, sometimes I feel like they're just pitching products to you and nonsense, and there's no evidence behind it. And what I really like about your posts, one, you have just a lot of lifestyle as well, and you're beautiful to look at. You have got like great taste in clothing and everything. So we get a good mix. But also, when you're posting about stuff like creatine, which is a topic we're going to touch on in a little bit, you're not so definitive about it. I feel like that's the way I like wellness to be, because I feel like it's not always that definitive.
It's not definitive, and it's confusing. Like, I find when I look online and I look for any wellness tips or tricks, I get so confused. And I think the reason why it's so confusing is because there's not much high quality evidence out there. And I think when you start making conclusive decisions saying you have to have this or you don't have to have this, I think that's when it gets really tricky for the person who's viewing it to decide what's right for me. So I think my personal approach is I give you everything that's available. I'm not going to pitch you anything. I'll tell you, in my opinion, what I use. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, then you can move on to the next thing.
And that's the best approach to take when it comes to wellness. I'm in my wellness era.
Love that for you.
I feel like I've really stepped it up, partially because of my age and also because I don't know, there was this point in my life where I just started feeling like I was so consumed with everybody else and work and everything. And I just realized I was letting myself go. So some of the first things that I got into were, like making sure I was going to the gym more, focusing more on strength training,
love that.
And doing less cardio, trying not to starve myself all the time when I felt like I was getting a little bit heavy. And actually I eat a lot more now, focus on protein and everything. What are some steps like that you think people should take to start their wellness journey?
I think I really relate to what you said, because for a long period of time, I was kind of letting life happen to me rather than actually experiencing what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And that included things like waking up in the morning, getting ready for work, going to clinic, giving myself to all of my patients in clinic. And then I realized I haven't actually done anything for myself. And I think my wellness journey started when I was like, well, what am I actually doing in my life that's for myself? And that's when I built up kind of this morning routine, which I now treasure. Like I love it. It's just something that I look forward to doing every morning, whether it's like a sip of coffee or morning movement or going for a walk, something that's just for me before I give myself away to everybody else.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your morning routine.
So I am really trying to not press snooze. I think that's kind of my biggest hurdle that I've had so far. It's just because, your bed is nice and warm and you want to stay in there for a little bit longer. But I've really made a habit now of not pressing snooze. So I kind of get up as soon as my alarm goes off and my watch kind of vibrates until I tell it to stop. And then I go downstairs and I start my morning coffee, which I think is just my little kind of like elixir of life. I just love it. I kind of have my pint of water, have my morning coffee, and then I just journal. So I kind of, whether that's writing it down or just thinking about the day ahead, what do I want to achieve? Like, what do I want to do? Yes, I have a fixed fixed time of clinic, but what do I do? What do I want to do outside of that? So what am I going to do for myself? Am I going to go to the gym? Am I going to go for a walk? Am I going to go and see my friends after work? Like, what is it going to be? So the kind of staple of the morning routine is the same, but you have like differences day to day.
What is the reason that you are trying not to hit snooze?
Because I feel like I waste so much time in bed. I used to press snooze, but I didn't go back to sleep. I used to grab my phone and then open social media. And I feel like someone said to me, and I don't know if this is true, but you wouldn't wake up with like 10 people around your bed. Well, I mean, there are scenarios where you could. But
that'd be interesting. Whole other topic.
Yeah, but you wouldn't really wake up and have all of this kind of external information in the morning. So why are you doing that when you open your phone? So now I kind of keep my phone on the other corner of the room. I obviously wake up and have to get out of bed to press snooze. And then once I'm up, I leave my phone and I just go downstairs. So
no phone at all for how long?
About the first 30 minutes of the day.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's really made a difference because I was kind of scrolling online, and then you get into sometimes this comparison spiral, or you think, oh, this person's got this opportunity and I don't. And I think sometimes you can get into a really negative mindset before the day started. And sometimes I read, comments from people that aren't very nice. So I was thinking to myself, do you know what? 30 minutes of the day, I'm going to be as positive as possible. And I'm going to put my phone away.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. It's something that I'll go back and forth on it. Sometimes I'm like the anxious person in me will immediately reach for my phone as soon as I wake up. And then as soon as I get into this mindset where I need to put it to the side and just not look at it as the first thing I do in the morning, I feel so much better because it's like you said, it's like, even if it's just the emotional roller coaster you go through on social media and your feed, it's like happy, sad, scary. Like it's so much.
You never know what's going to pop up on your feed. And I think obviously you're very busy and you have so many hats that you wear. And so I feel like once you open your phone and start answering, people are going to come back to you and ask you more questions. And I feel in that way, sometimes I put my phone on do not disturb, even if it's like overnight. So then that way, even if I do reach for my phone, I'm not getting those notifications. So that's another trick that I've tried as well.
Yeah. So then you go downstairs, make your coffee, and you think coffee's totally fine as like part of your wellness routine.
Yeah. So there's so much online saying, you should wait 2 hours to allow your natural cortisol to spike, and then you should have your coffee. I don't have 2 hours in the morning, personally speaking. Also, I've tried not having coffee and I'm a horrible person.
Same.
Like I love it. I love the taste. I love how my milk is frothed in the morning. I love that time with my partner. So it's like the shared experience that we have. And I think for me personally, it's not done anything that's harming me. And that's what I say online is, there's no robust evidence in terms of kind of coffee, cortisol, etc. Obviously, coffee is a stimulant, but we can talk about that for a really long time. But personally for me, it works for me. And that's why I do it.
So you don't think there's any, because I see this kind of information out there where it's like, don't drink coffee on an empty stomach.
Yeah. But what if you can't eat first thing in the morning and then you feel sick for the rest of the day? It's really individual. And I think the minute you start taking generalist research and trying to apply it to yourself, I think that's when it can become you can get into a mindset where you think you're just not doing good enough because you're having coffee on an empty stomach and therefore bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to try it. And if it doesn't work for you, fine. If it works for you, also fine.
The thing about like having a wellness routine is, I think sometimes we overcomplicate it in our minds. So we're like, the whole topic came up this time last year, actually. I was in London and I had been here for a whole month, and we have a whole PR team for my brand Naturium here in London. Yeah. And they had some outreach from a magazine and they were asking, can Susan walk us through her wellness routine? And I wrote back to our PR people and I was like, Polly, I don't have a wellness routine at all. And I had to really take a step back and be like, okay, what is my wellness routine? And the only thing that I was doing for myself was my skincare routine. And so I was just like, okay, wait, I really need to focus on myself a little bit more and get this routine. But just hearing you say this, I'm like, you know what? Maybe we overthink it because this seems really simple and easy.
Yeah. And I think online you see all these videos, which is great. Yeah. But everyone's morning routine can look different, which I've seen online, but also, you have people that have 2 steps in their morning routine versus people who have 100. Yeah. And it's dependent on what your life looks like. If you have a life where you're either working from home or you're self-employed, that's going to look completely different to someone who has to go to work every day, who is on a contract. So I think, again, it's really important to realize, how is this going to fit into my life, and what actually do I want to do? If you don't want to go for a morning walk because you find actually you don't enjoy it, don't go. If you want to try a different form of movement, fine. If you want to go, I don't know, to a gym class in the morning, that's also fine. So it's about taking bits and seeing what works for you, but not saying that if this person is doing it, I have to copy everything that they're doing.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite wellness trends that you see online? And then afterwards, let's talk about some of the ones that you hate, the trends that you hate.
Obviously, being a doctor, I think women's health is quite trendy. And I in a way, I kind of am sad because it's taken so long to become trendy. But I think the fact that we're getting more of a spotlight is perfect. I feel like any publicity on women's health is great. And I think the fact that we're having more research into women's health is fab. So that's the first thing. And, women weren't included in clinical trials until 1993, which I think is absolutely wild. And yes, we have hormonal cycles and we are seen as complex, but I keep saying that it's what makes us beautiful and unique, to be honest. So I'm glad that finally we're getting kind of this publicity and this kind of press on women's health. And I think that's only going to go in the right direction. So I think that's kind of my top one at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. You know, what's funny though, is since women's health, especially like menopause and perimenopause has become such a huge like social media topic, I started to spiral a little bit thinking, because as soon as I got into my 40s, I was like, wait, am I experiencing perimenopause? So I finally, because I was totally like, I have to be, this is me. These are all my symptoms. And then I started to get like my hormones checked, my other, like other minerals and vitamins checked and everything. And it turns out my hormones are actually pretty like level right now. They're not that bad. So I'm not really in perimenopause, but it turned out I was really low in iron. My thyroid is a wreck, like that kind of stuff. And so I do hope that as people are seeing all this stuff online when it comes to women's health, that they're a little bit more cautious to not just like suddenly assign themselves some kind of an issue like perimenopause.
Exactly. And I think that's where it's really important to have kind of credible people online advocate for, conditions that can look similar. I see online so many times, people have horror stories of, things and conditions that they've been through. And it's horrifying to hear, but it's also important to know that you need to find credible sources of information online, because the wellness industry is large.
Yes.
And I think there's
making a lot of money.
They're making a lot of money. And I think the social media presence of kind of wellness influencers is rising, but not all of them have kind of credibility. And I think that's why there are a few of us trying to kind of give everyone the evidence base so that they can make their decision. If I see a something online and someone's telling me that you have to do this 100%, that's kind of like, for me, a red flag.
Yeah, for sure. What's another wellness trend that you love?
The focus on mental health, I think, is what I am really loving at the moment. I think in my clinic, I obviously have a large proportion of patients that we talk about their mental health. And I think it's really courageous for people to come and open up and be so vulnerable. But seeing that online and allowing other people to kind of be able to relate to that and also feel like they're not alone is something that I really love seeing. I know, usually I say it's like supplements or whatever, but I think speaking about mental health, that trend online as well at the moment, I hope it just continues to grow.
Yeah. For sure. Because I do think that people have felt very alone in their mental health journees, right? And I think it for me, for sure, just seeing people talk about things like anxiety, which was something I experienced a lot after I had my first child, and just realizing that was very normal.
Yeah, I don't know why, it was such a stigma. Like, actually, the two topics, women's health and mental health, I think it's been such a stigma and a taboo for a really long time, where you just think, like hiding your period products or not talking about the fact that you're suffering and you're going through a low period of your life. And now I feel like I would feel comfortable talking about it online, talking about my period, talking about my cycle, talking about my own anxiety, waking up today at 3 a.m. thinking about a patient. I feel comfortable talking about it because I feel like the space is safe. It's safer than it has been for a really long time.
I think, when I consider why we never wanted to talk about mental health issues is because we never wanted to be seen as crazy, right? The word crazy when you're a woman is so triggering because it's like to be seen as crazy is is so,
It's like, oh, you're a
so
woman.
rude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, she's hysterical. Oh, she's crazy.
Yeah.
No, actually, like we're going through so much.
Yeah.
We have hormones that play a part. We have life that we're juggling. We have societal pressures saying, you know, stay skinny and look a certain way, and you shouldn't be aging, and you should do everything you can to age backwards. And it's like, well, what do you expect us to do if we're like a pressure pot sometimes, you know?
For sure. How about like supplements that have become popular online?
Yeah, well, supplements, I'm like, I have a love-hate relationship with supplements.
Okay.
I think the reason why is because I am first and foremost a person of, if you can get it through your diet, fab. There are obviously certain supplements that you can't get as much through your diet. So talking about creatine, let's say, the kind of dietary sources are through meat and fish, but I think it's something like you have to consume a kilo of meat to get kind of 5 grams of creatine. So I feel like that's not going to happen.
Right.
But supplements like creatine, I think, are really good. Magnesium, obviously, if you can't get it through your diet, that's also great. And then it's kind of trial and error for me in terms of other supplements. But supplements, I'm like it's Marmite for me at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these things, you may not necessarily have higher quality evidence. There are obviously some studies that suggest that they may have potential benefits, but always there's a caveat that says, you know, more research is needed or whatever it may be. But I think if you have the money and you're willing to try it out, then I think, why not?
Yeah.
Give yourself, you know, a month and say, okay, I'm going to document how I've felt, what the benefits I've seen, things I didn't really like about it. And then when the month comes up, then you can decide if you want to keep it, if it's going to stick in your supplement stack, or if it's going to go.
Yeah. What do you think about supplement stacking? Because that's a huge trend.
It is, so long as they don't interact with each other. I see so many people that take kind of, you know, things like iron with like tea or caffeine, and obviously that affects the absorption. So kind of making sure that they're not interacting with each other is great. I also feel like if you spread out your supplements, personally speaking, I forget to take them.
Yeah.
So I have to take them all in one go. Otherwise, I'm not going to take them.
Yeah.
I'm like the worst patient when it comes to taking medication, supplements, anything. Like I forget all the time. So I have to either have it somewhere that's straight in my face.
Yeah.
And it has to be all together.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of the same way. I do split it up because I've got like my medications too. I split it up morning and night, but because it's morning and night, I'm able to keep up with it. Sometimes I'm a little bit off when I'm traveling, but otherwise I keep up with it.
Yeah.
What would you say though are your favorite supplements to take right now?
My magnesium is next to my bed.
Oh, okay.
I am obsessed with magnesium. I feel like, so I've been tracking my sleep and I don't know if it's placebo. It may be, I don't know. But when I take the magnesium, my sleep scores and my REM sleep is improved.
Okay.
And so now that's like a staple. So it's like by my bedside, looking really pretty.
Wait, which brand are you using?
I use Free Sol. So I'm actually their community GP. So I use Free Sol, and it's a 4-in-1. So it's got the 3 different types of magnesium and turmeric in there as well.
Okay.
Which
so you're
I
getting
love.
the magnesium glycinate, the magnesium citrate, what other?
And then I think the other one is malate. I need to
Okay.
double check
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And then the turmeric as well. So that's like a little power shot for sleep for me. And then I take things like iron because we're women and we are always deficient. And then I take things like vitamin C as well, so, and omegas as well. So yeah, I think those are kind of like my staples. I have been trying creatine as well. So again, we have kind of like a pure creatine or kind of creatine with collagen as well that I've been trying. I haven't tried colostrum yet.
Okay.
It's like my feed is giving it to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's only a matter of time before I kind of hit add to basket and then try it out. But yeah, I've done some research on it and it's kind of like inconclusive, as they always are.
Yeah.
Next time I see you, I'll probably say I'm converted. But yeah, it's only a matter of time that I'll try it.
I love that. Speaking of creatine, I would say whenever people are like, what's like the supplement that you think is the best one out there? For me personally, I would say creatine has been the most game changing for me.
Love that.
I started taking creatine, I want to say like 4 or 5, maybe 6. Actually, it's probably been like 6 months now that I've been doing creatine. I've been working out with a personal trainer for years. And there were 2 things that really changed my physique, I guess, like my body, even, you know, like even though I'd been working out like the same, the things that I changed were 1, a little bit more of my diet. I focused on tracking a little bit more of the macros and all that kind of stuff. But 2, I added the creatine and I do 5 grams every single day with a protein shake. And I have just noticed that not only do I feel like my muscle recovers faster, but I do feel like I'm sharper.
Yeah.
Like even today, I got like 3 hours of sleep because I just got in, right? Just got into London from Miami. And I feel like taking my creatine really helps keep me sharp. Like sometimes I actually think I don't need as much coffee.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I think creatine is like the most research fitness supplement, which is great. And I think in terms of kind of improving your performance, kind of your muscle mass, that it's like, tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to things like cognition and women's health, I think there are some studies that are there to suggest that it may have benefit, but we still have a long way to go. But I think it's great actually that if you're willing to try it and you're able to see those kind of effects and they're positive, that's great because you're kind of basically doing research on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things to say is that they will, research will consider lots of different people, hopefully some women as well now, but there's only one you and your genetics will be different to everybody that's included in that study. And I think once you start understanding your own body and how you work and what your effects are, I think that's where it becomes really powerful. But yeah, there's been really promising evidence in terms of like cognition and also in sleep deprivation, actually, that you said. So there's been a few studies where they found that actually improves kind of your working memory and your intelligence in scenarios where you're sleep deprived. So say if you're kind of like a young, you've got a young baby at home and you're sleep deprived, they found that it may help in that scenario.
Oh, interesting.
Also in terms, there's a few studies done again that suggest in terms of working alongside antidepressants as well. So it improves kind of scores that people say that they feel better. But again, they're very kind of early studies and obviously a lot more needs to be done. But I think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to creatine.
Yeah. What is creatine anyway? Is it a supplement that
it's a
we
compound.
do we actually produce it?
We make it. Yeah. Okay. So we make it in kind of organs like the liver and also the brain as well and the kidneys and the pancreas. So we do have it, but we only make about 1 gram in a day. And I think obviously the doses are kind of 3 to 5 grams and you'd have to eat, like I said, 1 kilo of meat, which I don't think anyone's doing. Well, there might be someone, but yeah. So I think that's where supplementation really helps because you can get the amount that, that they want you to have in a dose through a supplement.
Yeah. What do you think about the trend of, and this is something that I've fallen into, and I actually do think it has improved my life. You're basically eating a gram of protein per pound that you, I don't know how that translates here, but you're essentially eating a ton of protein as a woman, especially once you've like passed 35. Yeah. I hear that it's like recommended that you eat when you prioritize protein.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of your plate, I think protein is also having its moment, which I think is great. But I think it's also important to not forget kind of other factors like fiber, which is really important, and kind of all the other micro and macronutrients. But I think in terms of protein, it's also dependent on your fitness goals, because obviously if you are someone who wants to gain more muscle, maybe your protein intake will be a bit more. If you want to maintain, your protein intake will be a bit less. But I think protein is really important in terms of maintaining your kind of muscle mass. And as we get older, especially kind of menopause and perimenopause and menopause, as the estrogen kind of declines, we know that we're kind of losing more of our muscle. And as women, that's really important to have kind of muscle mass in resistance training for your overall health. So yeah, I think protein is great. I think making sure that you're having that on your balanced plate, because I feel like sometimes we forget about it. Like we have, like carbs, and I love carbs.
We all love carbs.
Like just give me a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I know.
But I think protein is really important to include, and making sure that you're having the fiber that you need as well to kind of make it impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Why is fiber important? Because I hear this topic a lot too, that people are always skipping their fiber. And I'm actually guilty of it sometimes too. Yeah.
Well, your gut microbiome is full of all this amazing bacteria, which feeds off of things like fiber. And if you're not feeding that, then that's when you can get into a few problems. And we're only now really discovering the evidence behind how the gut is linked to everything in terms of like our skin, our mood, so much. And I think one of the things to say is that when we look online, people are talking about kind of one topic rather than a more holistic approach. And I think that's what's really important, is to think, okay, yes, how can I optimize different parts of me to make me work better as a whole. And I think the gut is kind of like a key piece in that puzzle. So fiber is really important. We also know kind of fiber in terms of reducing your risk of things like bowel cancer is really important. And I'm seeing people kind of younger and younger in my clinic being diagnosed with cancer, which is really scary. And so it's, really important to try and prioritize the key pillars of life. So things like your diet, your hydration, your movement, your sleep, and kind of study yourself and see what works for you.
That makes sense. Are there any wellness trends that you just cannot stand, you despise?
I think the all or nothing, like, when you see people online and they are like walking through a supermarket and they're like, this is bad for you and this is going to ruin your life. I think scaremongering online is quite, I find it quite offensive.
Yeah.
And I think like nuanced information is never going to go viral. I think it's always that clickbait scare tactic that will end up going viral. And I think that's what I want the consumer to understand, is that really analyze the information that you're kind of absorbing through your phone, because I think that's when it can get really toxic. Look at the source of information that it's coming from, because a lot of these people may be promoting you, like you said, to buy a certain product. So they'll like cause a problem and then give you the solution as well.
The solution.
So yeah, I think the scaremongering clickbait all or nothing is like, if I see that, I'm like, ugh, get it off.
What about seeding, ear seeding? What do you think of that?
Yeah, so I've actually never tried that, and I was looking into it actually because I think it's from, is it Chinese medicine? I'm the kind of person who also, I've grown up in kind of an Indian household, so we have a lot of like Ayurvedic medications and treatments, and I'm kind of the approach that, again, it's not all or nothing. You can have modern medicine alongside kind of traditional medicine, and I think if it works in terms of kind of acupuncture and pressure points, then like, so be it. But I haven't tried it yet, and it's probably on my list.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of pretty too. Because they're putting like little gold beads. They stick to your ear and they place them in little like strategic places according to whatever stress you're dealing with or whatever. Yeah. I've done it once, but it was years ago. And I almost want to try it again. Now I'm seeing the trend, since I'm in like the skincare industry. The trend I'm seeing is that it like slims out your face. Like the girls roll into like the gua sha first.
That's me every morning.
Yeah, every morning. That's a great trend to be in. The lymphatic drainage.
Well, I just feel like even if you don't have a gua sha, you can do it with your kind of like fists and your fingers. Your but I just feel like I feel great. Like I feel alive. Whether or not it's having a difference, maybe I should have taken like a before and after, but I love it.
Well, I got into lymphatic drainage. Well, let's finish the topic of the seeding. The seeding is really cute. And it supposedly like even helps to like slim your face, because it's like taking like a little bit of stress off of you. Yeah. Like this pressure.
Well, yeah, I guess, if you think about stress and you think about cortisol and you think about chronic levels of cortisol being raised over a long period of time, then and I think if it actually allows you to feel less stressed, even just by the act of massaging, then or act of kind of putting a seed on your ear, then great. Yeah.
But the lymphatic drainage, you're into it.
I love it. I mean, I'm only at the face. I've seen people that do like everywhere, behind the knees.
I'm a very privileged person. I get to do a lymphatic drainage massage every week. I go to a place in Miami called MOVA. I just feel like it has completely changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah. What other wellness trends do you think are interesting?
Well, one that I am currently trialing for myself is kind of the sauna ice plunge. And I've done it maybe 4 or 5 times.
So you're going from heat
to cold. Yeah, it's the contrast therapy, I think is what it's called. But I feel like I started it in a place where I really wasn't kind of confident in my own mental resilience. Like I felt like I was just in a place where I was not feeling great about myself and wasn't really sure how I was going to get through it. And I actually went to this place in Canary Wharf called Arc, where it's like a guided sauna and then it's like a guided plunge. I've never had that before. Because
what do you mean by guided? Like meditation?
There's someone there with a mic.
Okay.
They help you through this sauna and kind of ask you to like scream and make noises, but it was really good. Like it was really cathartic.
Yeah.
And then they coach you through this 3-minute ice plunge. If you had asked me before to stay in an ice bath for 3 minutes, like you would be lucky if it was 3 seconds.
Yeah, same.
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Okay.
She basically coached you through it. So how you kind of breathe in, you step in, and the next exhale, you go down. And she was kind of telling you that your brain is going to tell you that you need to get out, and that you're in a place of kind of danger, but you're not. You're going to be fine. And I was in it for three minutes, and ever since, I've been able to do it for 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And the mental benefit that I have is that I just feel like I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I can do that, I can push a lot more in other aspects of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm really loving it at the moment. Again, there's not much research in terms of like women and the effects, but for as long as I feel a benefit, and then unless I see solid evidence that it's like harmful, then obviously I'll stop, but I love it.
Well, the benefit I'm hearing from you that you're getting from it is more like a resilience benefit, right?
Yeah.
A mental resilience, which I think is a huge, huge benefit for a lot of people. Like whenever people are asking, how do you have the stamina to start a business and run it and get it to like the point that it's at, or stay with social media for as long as you have? And I really think it's mental resilience. Yeah. And it's doing things that it's like accomplishing something that felt hard. Yeah. And if you can get through the hard part of it, you actually end up feeling so much better.
100%. And I guess when people come to you and say, how do you do it? They see the end result, but they don't see all the times that you've failed, all the times that you've struggled, all the times that you've pushed past feeling uncomfortable to get to where you are now. And I think that's what's really helpful for me, is knowing that understanding that my body is telling me that I can't do this, and my brain is like, don't do it. But actually I'm having a conversation with myself basically in this ice bath, saying, you're fine, Monika, like you're fine.
Granted, I hate being cold, so I probably won't try this out, but I do love having these kinds of challenges, like this mental resilience challenge.
Yeah. But I was like you. So I feel like there's still hope for you. You wouldn't touch me in being in a cold place. But now I'm like, put me in an ice bath for 3 minutes and
and you've got this.
I'll have a conversation. Well, let's talk about what we're having for dinner.
I love it. I love that for you. Okay, great. When it comes to being a woman, we've kind of talked a little bit about supplements and having like a balanced diet. Are there other things that you think women should be focusing on now that we are starting to learn more about women's health?
Knowing that a lot of the evidence that has been, and the research that has been done, is done on men. And I think that in a way it's kind of like a disservice. I feel sad because I think, even during my medical school training, all the things that I've learned in terms of like how a heart attack presents, it's like I learned how it presents in a man. All the medication doses was done on a 70-kilo man. And I feel sad in a way, because we need to be researched, because we're amazing. Yeah. We do so many things. We give birth to another life. Yeah. We have so many things that we can do, that the kind of hormonal journey that we go through from kind of puberty to our first period to pregnancy to juggling life through perimenopause and then menopause. Like there's so many amazing things that we do in the body, that our body does, as well as our mind. So I think knowing your body as a woman is probably the first thing that I would recommend anyone to do, whether that's like tracking your cycle, tracking your sleep, looking at the key pillars of your life, just because your life will look different to another woman. Yep. Guaranteed, your cycle will look different to another woman. The symptoms that you experience will look different. So I just want you to understand your own body so that you can advocate for yourself better as well.
Yeah. Another trend that I see that it's not a trend for me, but I do see that people are really into intermittent fasting. What do you think of that?
So coming from someone, I used to intermittently fast. I used to do it kind of when I was working in the hospital. I got into a really negative headspace.
Really? Because
I got to a point where I would eat from the hours, I remember, from 12 to 8. It was 11:58. I was hungry. Like I could feel my belly gurgling. And I was like, no, I can't eat because I'm 2 minutes outside of the window. Yeah. And I think for me, in terms of how I looked at my food, I looked at it in a really negative way, and kind of how I wanted it, what I wanted it to achieve for my body and the way it looked. Yeah. I was like, why am I looking at it that way? It was kind of, I had a negative perception of how I looked, and I thought that could cure it. Also, what we're finding now in terms of research is that fasting for women is not necessarily having the same effects as fasting for men. It has a place in terms of kind of medical conditions, and if you do it kind of through seeking advice, that's great. But in terms of women, thinking about our, on average 28-day cycle versus a man's 24-hour cycle, I think the effects are, wholly different. So I personally don't intermittently fast anymore. I will eat, in the morning, before I work out, after I work out. Our recovery windows are different in terms of men and women. The ways in which we metabolize kind of energy is different after working out. So I personally don't. And I would recommend if anyone's looking into it to do it kind of when you speak to someone that's kind of going to give you good evidence or advice.
What would be the reason to fast?
So say if someone is wanting to improve maybe insulin resistance and weight loss, and that's one way that they could do it. But I think when you're kind of starving your body of food, you're kind of then putting your body into this kind of fight or flight mode. And so you're kind of increasing the stress that could be occurring on your body, and then that can have kind of negative impacts. It's important to be nuanced in why you're doing it. So like what are the goals that you want to achieve? And is there another way that you can do it? And if not, then I would kind of speak to a healthcare professional and then go through that way.
Got it. I mean, some people have told me that they do it because it's like, they almost feel like it's a detox, like letting their body reset. Do you think there's any evidence in that?
So I think some people say that intermittent fasting is slightly different to fasting with your circadian rhythm. So like if you eat in the hours, because technically you are fasting, right? So if you eat between the hours of you waking and sleeping, you're not eating when you're sleeping. So that's like a fast. So say if you eat from like, I don't know, 8 to 6, that's like a fasting window. But I think it's when you're kind of active during the day and then you're not fueling yourself appropriately, that's when it can become
an issue.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if I work out in the morning, I feel like I've read that you have like a 20-minute window to like refuel with protein.
Yeah, I've read it's like, well, this is how evidence is kind of, emerging. But yeah, even something like 30 to 45 minutes. And if you think about it, sometimes I go to a gym class, but it's far away from my house. So by the time I get home, it's like an hour and a half because you shower, you get ready, you maybe like catch up with your friends or whatever, and then you go home. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I've like done myself such a disservice. Yeah. But only now are we starting to understand how women work.
Yeah. Last topic, wellness topic that I've seen online is cycle syncing your workouts, and actually diets also. Yeah. They're kind of like changing their diet or their workout according to where they're at in their menstrual cycle.
In terms of the evidence base, there's no solid evidence that you should be kind of tailoring your exercise or your diet for different kind of times of your cycle. Having said that, as a woman, if you're tracking your cycle and you're finding that you're feeling a certain way at different periods and you want to kind of cater the things that you're doing in terms of exercise, that's also fine, because I think you should listen to your body and you should listen to what you're going through. Your energy levels will change depending on where you are in your cycle, and the way that you respond to hormones will be different, to the woman next to you. So I think understanding your body, understanding your symptoms, and understanding what works for you at different points of your cycle can work. In terms of diet, again, limited evidence, but we know that we can burn up to, I think it's like we need 300 more calories in the kind of later stage, the luteal phase of our cycle.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And
so while we're right before we're going to start our periods?
Because your body's like getting ready to harbor a potential pregnancy. So it's like, that's when you feel a little bit slower and you want to wind down and you want to have a bit more, in terms of cravings that might be in that window. But again, you can speak to women who feel fine in the luteal phase and they're like, okay, I'm ready to go and, smash a workout. So it is so individualistic. And I think that's the one thing I would say is that, yes, there's no evidence base, but track your cycle, track your symptoms, track how you're feeling, and then you'll be able to advocate for yourself better.
Yeah, even actually going back to the mental health aspect of things, it's like understanding your cycle helps you understand why you might be feeling a specific way too.
Yeah, why I'm like raging, for 5 days. And then the next 5 days I'm an angel. Yeah. I have an app now that my partner can see my cycle, and my app sends him notifications being like, oh, I think you should give Monika a snack today. Or like, just be careful because Monika might be feeling like this.
What is this app?
This app is called Stardust.
Stardust.
It's so good because your partner can download it and then view your cycle, and it tells you when they viewed your cycle.
Really?
So you're like, oh, like, I wonder why you viewed it. Was it because I was really mean to you this morning and you wanted to just double check that it wasn't actually coming from me, but maybe from my hormones? So yeah, it's a great app.
Do you download it yourself and then
he downloads it, and then we can sync.
Interesting. Wait,
it's so good. Yeah, and it's like, it's great. It'll give you like Twilight, like anecdotes. It will give you things like your estrogen is pumping today, and it's like pump up the jam. Like, it's great.
Hilarious.
So yeah, it's like having fun with it as well, knowing that we obviously go through this, and sometimes for some women it can be really horrendous. Yeah. But knowing that we're kind of like advancing in terms of how we're approaching it, which I think is great.
I love that. That's such a great way to end the episode, is on downloading Stardust.
Yes,
I'm going to do it right now. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we've covered so much, and it was so much fun.
Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm on social media, so Instagram and TikTok at Life with Dr. Mon.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Glow Lab. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a review, share it with your friends, give it a like on social media, and it's all so we can continue giving you really great episodes and bring you on some really great guests.